Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to Organic Frequency Radio with Stephanie and Oxana. This is another Monday afternoon, whether you are on East Coast or West Coast of this planet, or perhaps even, well, East Coast, West Coast, I would say USA planet. I won't go too much into the whole planet, but yes, wherever you are, welcome to the Organic Frequency Radio, and I am happy to be live today. Stephanie will be joining us a little bit later today, which is awesome because she has been very busy with Feminine Frequency Network that we just established, and bringing on many other hosts to share their stories and gifts and connect and expand our consciousness and awareness, which actually is taking me to the next step of our show, is having an amazing special guest today. In fact, our guest today is one of the hosts on Feminine Frequency Network, which I am excited about, and I cannot wait to speak to our guest and introduce her on our radio show, since we've been running this radio show a little bit longer. And go more into what she's bringing to the station and the topic of our discussion as well for today, which I will reveal shortly. But first, before even going anywhere, I just wanted to say, if not everyone knows, I'm back on East Coast. I am revisiting East Coast after being in LA for a year and accomplishing massive amount of initiatives there. Who knows where I will be next year, but this year it seems like I might be on East Coast for a bit. So this is just my personal update. But as everyone, I have been going through massive changes as well. Internally, externally, as you all know, it's all pretty much the same. And right now I'm working on, well, I don't want to use word working, but I am in the middle of a lot of new, flowerings of the seeds. So it's very, very exciting. I see that Stephanie is in the studio, and I would like to see if she wants to come up online. One sec.
Hi, everybody. How are you doing?
Hello, darling. Hello, Stephanie. How are you? Busy bee?
Hi.
I'm sorry, guys. Kai's here. He wants to say hi. Say hi, Radio Land.
Hi, Radio Land.
Okay, go play pumpkin.
Hello, Irene.
I'm doing wonderful. I just got done with another session of training. We're getting all of our hosts on Feminine Frequency Radio trained and ready to get their shows started. So I'm super, super excited about this network and what it's going to become.
Yes. And me too. Me and you both. Well, I was just saying that we're here. We are working on Feminine Frequency Radio Network. We are on East and West Coast. And today we are introducing one of our hosts and special guests today. And I was thinking to start reading about Cindy, unless you have anything else to add before we go into our discussion today. Perhaps not.
I'm sorry. I had to leave for a second. Kai was talking to me again. Say that again.
I was going to go into introducing our special guest for conversation about the topics and also introducing Cindy to our listeners as one of our hosts.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll go ahead and give an introduction, but we'll let her talk a little bit more about her show in a little bit. Cindy Magnuson is the owner of Sea Source Energy Epiphanies, located in Tenley Park, Illinois, and founder of The Sea. She is an energy consultant and an intuitive empath and provides services to the public as a professional numerologist and dream analyst, advanced EFT practitioner, and a Reiki master teacher. She has been servicing her local communities in the southwest suburbs of Chicago, Illinois, providing lectures, classes, readings, and energy sessions for the past 20 years. She was voted Best of the Best by the Northern Library Association and has appeared in numerous newspaper articles and has taught in 15 of the local park districts. Classes in numerology, dream analysis, animal communication, all levels of Reiki through Reiki Master Teacher and EFT Emotional Freedom Technique. She provides online services on Skype, Zoom, Facebook video, and over the phone. And tonight we're going to be talking to her about how to increase our instinctual perceptions to read nature signs and reflections. I'm so excited. Let's go ahead and get Cindy on the air.
Sounds good.
Hi, beautiful
Hello.
goddess. How are you?
Hello. I am good, thank you. Very good.
Yay.
Am I coming
Hello.
through clear?
Yes, you're coming through fine.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, indeed.
Okay. Stephanie, I'm getting a little bit of a fade on you every now and then, but all good. I can hear both of you.
Good. It's probably my phone. I have an iPhone 6. I'm sorry. It needs a new battery.
It's okay. I keep inadvertently leaning into the microphone thinking that's going to help, but then I hear myself saying, it ain't going to help. So I'm just going to listen very attentively. Hello. I'm excited to be here and looking forward to a fun chat.
Good, good. Well, first, before we get into our discussion, I really want to start telling everyone about the shows that are in Feminine Frequency Radio Network. So why don't you go ahead and tell our listeners a little bit about your show and what that's going to entail?
Okay, so the name of my show is Twilight Epiphanies Talk Radio. That's on the Thursday evening slot, 7 to 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And the theme of the show is, first of all, beginning out, I'm looking at introducing 4 subjects, which are the accumulation of what and how I service the public in working with what I call the C Technique EFT Plus. And the word C for me, Source Energy Epiphanies, has a special place in my heart for helping people to retune back into something that's a higher voice, an advice to them, a feeling center for them, and helping them to have that next piece of the puzzle that they've been looking for so they can move forward and have more self-understanding. So the first 4 shows out, the first one I did was Emotional Freedom Technique. Next week is going to be all things numerology. So I'm going to introduce how do we read the numerology chart in a little bit easier method than when we get the data all in a computerized numerology program. That's wonderful for a basis, but it really takes some discernment to look at that, and then some higher awarenesses and perspectives about numerology and some unique ways that I look at it. So I'm going to introduce how to read cycles within cycles and combine the numbers together for better self-understanding, and then really look at, okay, if there's an energy story in there, what does it mean to you? And then the next week after that is dream analysis, and the next week after that I'm going to do all about Reiki. So beyond that, then I'm looking at sort of my personality is where I'm very inquisitive about how the world got into the place that it's in, and how we are correcting that in a time frame when we are meant to be correcting spaces from the past, assuming more self-responsibility and understanding our creative power. And there are a lot of differing opinions, and so I kind of want to do some theme shows out looking at how can we resolve those differing opinions so that we stay united as a core as opposed to being too divided. So I'm going to look at different topics. I'm going to announce them as they come along, but I'm looking at hosts and ideas. I want to do in the future, again, I will do a whole month on dreams and look at different ways that we can analyze dreams. So this third week coming up will be an introduction to that. So that's the show. So Epiphanies is all about, I'm hoping to help people come to an epiphany. At whatever it is, little, big, we'll take anything. So,
very nice, very nice. I love the concepts of dreams. For me, yes, love it, Cindy. Thank you for thank you for thorough explanation and introduction. So yeah, I am looking forward. I haven't listened to your show just yet, but I will be connecting, checking it out. Yes, and I guess right now, since we know now what you will be diving into on the radio, can you tell our listeners and remind me as well, how did you get to the point of studying all of this, utilizing this? Did you have a wake-up calls or, anything that has happened to you that really allowed you to see deeper into the life, and when you realized, all right, something is not the way it is, How did you get on the path of evolution? Yeah.
I did have an early awakening experience around ages 17 and 18. And I had just been interested in when the weekend was going to get here and what I was going to do that involved pretty much alcohol and not much consciousness at that time. And in the midst of that space, I had an awakening and completely left all that also on a dime. One night I just got up. I was walking out of the bar, and I had been thinking, man, there's something else. I just feel something else. This isn't sitting right with me. And I turned to walk out of the bar, and there was a woman who stopped me, and she looked me right in the eyes, and she said, Cindy, you don't belong here. And I looked at her, and I said, I know, but I don't know where I belong. But I left at that time. Obviously, that was a message from Spirit. She was just impulsed to say that to me at that time. And I completely went into changing my diet at that time and put myself back through school. I got a black belt in karate. In the midst of that time, that kind of made me, oddly enough, the black sheep of the family, because everyone was doing the other set of circumstances I was kind of involved in. And so at that point, I kind of, was alone a little bit, and I slipped back out of that degree but I did achieve a physical education degree to teach physical education. And then I worked in occupational therapy, physical therapy, and I became a supervisor for worker rehab, etc. So long story short then, jump ahead, I had kind of fallen backwards and was exposed then to craniosacral therapy while I was working under one of those physical therapists along down the line. And after he taught me that, I became interested in energy work. So shoot ahead to 22 years ago, which was 20 years after that. So my big awakenings came 20 years apart, literally, almost probably to exact time. And it's interesting. That's a cycle. And I had just read in a book where it said, if you really want your spiritual guidance in your life, then you need to make that intention and focus on that. So I walked out onto my balcony and I had that book. I read the intention. I was laying in the sun. And at that point, I had a big awakening experience. It was the vibrational experience where you lose feeling of yourself. And there was a presence there that said, if you keep doing what you're doing, I will take care of you. At least that was my interpretation at the time. But the main thing that happened was I wasn't the same. I was not the same. I wanted information. As I always say, I was like the Johnny Five robot, if you girls remember that. And I wanted input. I could not get enough information, inside me to keep me happy. I just wanted to know how the world got in this space. How does intuition work? How do we know things before they're going to happen? So in the course of that time, that's how I coming to teaching and servicing the subjects that I do now. And I just really stayed in a lot on, even the conspiracy theory and how, what is going on behind the scenes. And that's part of my energy signature. So my energy signature is when I came in, I incarnated into a line where a predator pedophile ended up molesting me as an infant, and that was my mother's father. And when I'm saying that, I am completely, past that, that this as a healing experience, and I fully understand choosing this genetic line in my mother's womb, and it has served me very well for very many reasons. So there's no bad feelings about that. But the theme of authoritarian figures, because my grandfather was the chief of police in Minnesota and a detective, big social status. So it was that space where I'm aware as a young child that there's an energy there, but no one's believing me. That's part of reflections that were all throughout my life, part of even what, you talk about tonight and what your favorite book was, what kind of movies you like to watch. I love CSI. Of course I do. I'm still looking to catch the bad guy, So, and I do, and I still have a relationship with that. And it's something I'm satisfied now with what I know I see. But even in bringing in the theme of the show tonight, Mirror on the Wall, my first favorite book was Watership Down, and I related to Fervor. I believe that was the name of the one rabbit who was very nervous and sensitive, and he knew trouble was coming. So he felt it. And that was an energy signature reflection that early on that at that time I didn't understand. But so that's how I got here.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. I've already mentioned many times that I also been kind of awakened about 15 years ago. Now it's probably 16. And I also in the beginning was just eating all the information and books and everything, and wanting to share and realizing things within me. But before that, I also felt, and I mean, still even throughout that, it took me a little while to really find some sort of belonging here. And also, of course, reflection of that for me is not recognizing who you are. So you you're confused and you don't know where you belong. But if we go deeper into that, Cindy, then for me, I just never felt like this is my origin on this planet. So that's why whatever my surroundings were after 6 years old were almost foreign,
Yeah.
So,
yes.
I'm sure you probably could connect with that, resonate with that. It sounds like it.
I had it in my what was happening in my family. I definitely was different from my family to a significant degree after I woke up. But yes, that of course is something that when some of us have been other places already, we kind of come into an understanding that we see already, if we're perceptually sensitive to what we're feeling, we sense that things just aren't right. Mm-hmm. And of course, we know then we're being inundated on the other side of that with society's conditioning saying, no, it's all okay. So yeah, those confused messages, and we can remember whether maybe we can interpret, your experiences there as being something you just remember, that home was different, be something that you were in the past, or someplace where, you came back in to help in this incarnation, because there are obviously a lot of individual consciousness here who are here to assist. And we just have, it's the flood of how many beautiful people are waking up and leading. And then the earlier I sort of did come in as an indigo, being a little bit older here. And I didn't particularly have too hard of a time fitting in. Luckily, my second awakening then wasn't until age 38, which was 22 years ago already. So in that time, there were already spiritual stores springing up, enough. So I kind of had at least a comfort level to say something's different. But I will tell you, too, I red flagged a lot of books in the beginning and red flagged a lot of habits. So that definitely, even as the New Age came in, there was already a lot of false information that was kind of seeded into it already. But that's not necessary to talk about. But, so point is, we have a sensitive awareness in us that, something is not like it used to be.
Mm-hmm. So can we start with nature? Can we talk about nature and the signs from nature before we go more into a reflection in the sense of emotional, I guess?
Sure.
Yeah. What can you enlighten us about nature and reflection and science? Oh,
I probably can't enlighten you, but we'll share, yes. Because, and what I meant by that is that, so many people are aware of signs that are given in nature. Once you give attention to that space with your paying attention to it, with your intent, your focus, your desire, your passion to reconnect to nature, you go into what some people have referred to as the sense of weird, which is WYRD. And that is a sense that our purpose and destiny, once we connect back into true source and the true organic web, that the reflections that, the signs and messages and reflections that we're going to see can all give us a feedback loop as to where we're at and where we're going. So it's a little bit of like foreshadowing, and that's where a lot of the old wives' tales came in, from nature communicating. And depending upon what set of cultural beliefs you'd like to interpret, you can start off with a set of beliefs. You can do something like what I'm very oriented towards, which is Ted Andrews' material that was in Animal Speak, and even during that, you're developing your own meanings and revelations with working with nature signs. Let's take animals for existence. So terrestrial animals in general tend to tell us about our emotions. Birds tend to tell us about rising above certain situations, sort of more our soul aspects, giving inspiration and hope. And aquatic animals tend to be in the astral plane, feminine essence, and creativity. So here's a good example of nature and a funny story. So I had a window in a condo that I had in the past that was broken, and it didn't go up all the way, so it had an opening in it. And one morning, early in the morning, me and my son noticed, to our surprise and I would say fear at the time, that we had a large brown bat visiting us and flying around my home. So the bat had come in through a window. Odd that it came in. It's not anything that was, an area where bats were ever sitting or anything. And I had blinds down, so it had to crawl, to get into here. But anyways, so called a neighbor, police officer who came, a friend of ours. He looked, it's gone. I'm on the phone later on in the day. I'm leaving my daughter a message on her answering machine. She hears me start screaming later on when she's playing it back. The bat's back! The bat's back! It's not gone. So that bat had been in her house somewhere, was flying around. And so then, again, we looked for it, and there's meaning behind this story, so bear with it. So I looked all around the house, couldn't find it again, thought it was gone. So I go in the room, and I'm putting the shade back. And as I'm putting the shade back, there were shears there, and all of a sudden, brushed up against my hand, this big, long bat wing brushes up against the back of my hand. Wow. Of course, I'm screaming again. My toes, I felt them curl up all the way inside my jeans, and I'm screaming. So we just closed off the room, and I kid you not, we sent my neighbor in with his son, who had a strainer on his head to protect his head, with a broom. He had a shoebox. We closed the two of them in there. They caught the bat. We heard them flopping around and screaming. They finally got it out to the balcony. We had two attached balconies. So he lets it out at the end of the balcony. His wife was by the door of their balcony with their door open. They let the bat go. It flies right towards their door. They spent the rest of the night looking for the bat in their house. Long story short, that bat spent an entire day with me. And the bat symbol is in a space. It means that you need to go through a change that's not going to be easy, not going to be fun. It's something you are not wanting to do, but you have to do, and it's transmutation. It's sort of like the bat is a symbol of a shaman's death. So in the shamans, they would put the shaman in the ground and bury him. And then they would taunt him all night long and let him, deal with an overnight experience of being afraid, being buried in the ground. And it's an initiation. So it's to help you to become humble and also help you to get past fears. So that bat was an omen for sure. That meant that I was going to go through very big changes that I didn't want to. And the length of time it spent with me being a whole day, which was unusual. So it was an unusual circumstance that happened. And that was a relatively lengthy period of time that I went through a shaman initiation, definitely. So I was glad at the time that we could think light and fun of it. But so animals, for one, in nature, when we see an animal that is something that's around us more frequently, it can be a totem animal. If we start to develop a relationship where, for instance, coyotes I rarely see coyotes anymore. And in the past, when I saw coyote and raccoons, the raccoon is someone who's wearing a mask, and a coyote, for my symbol, was someone who is a trickster. And depending upon whether the coyote was a glimpse in the dark, it would mean it's there and I'm not catching it, but it's there and it's trying to hide. Or if it was on the side of the road and I looked at it and it didn't cross my path, I was sending a warning to that trickster, hey, don't cross my path. If it was something on the side of the road going the opposite direction, I had just passed up an experience. And the way that I learned this was by continuing to just observe. So what you observe, what you pay attention to, and what you learn how to read. So, for instance, if it's going to be animals, you look at something that is unusual and just has a feel about it. So, in general, to nurture something like this, you make a decision that you're going to be observant. You can, if you find you have a totem animal, in those cases that I referenced with a bat, a coyote, and a raccoon, they are not totem animals. I have other totem animals that are here, cats and owls are more, wild cats and owls are my totem animals. But the other animals were signs, and they were telling me what I was dealing with to make it more, and especially because I was being stubborn about this trickster being around me. So that was a message saying, no, it's there, and you're still dealing with it. So it's not that there's this trickster there, it's that you're still dealing with that energy. So that is part of how, and like I said, mostly it's that we choose to be observant, learn about the animals that we see by reading books like Ted Andrews' Animals Speak, and then understanding how direction and the circumstances that the animals are in, and that's one space. That is a very common space at nature. A next one, of course, then is feathers. So birds and birds and animals are a first one. A second area that's very common is feathers. So then the type of feather. I was just jogging on the path 2 days ago, and there was a hawk feather there. So hawk means be aware, so be more aware of your surroundings, or be aware to come to a higher understanding of awareness. So it can be a warning, or it can say you are becoming more aware about something. And because I found that, just to play it safe, I was more observant of jogging on the path. And there was a little bit of a questionable individual around, and so I decided to torture myself by running twice the speed I usually do to keep up with the younger girl that was in front of me. So I'm still sore from that run, but
it's wonderful.
Oh boy, I cut corners, and she would slow down, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad she's taking a sip of water. But it's better to be safe than sorry, and also I use some other tools to send a message of protection and awareness level. But that's what it meant. And I have an awesome hawk feather here again. So that's very nice. And it was meaningful. And so whenever you are reading a message, you have to immediately go to your circumstances. What were you thinking about? What situations are you dealing with? And what is foremost on your mind? And that's what it usually pertains to.
So would you say, animals as symbols come to us to be aware and raise our awareness, expand our senses, or it's just, or in combination with guidance, or it's both? Like, how do you differentiate? Like, or because I always but I always observe animals around me, and I've observed changes that occurred, which animal come to me more often, and also change from what my totems were before to perhaps maybe somewhat different ones now. So what would you say? Because we are born, and I've heard that we typically have a predominant animal totems, and then throughout life it changes. So are they our guiders in a sense, or they're simply here to allow us to be more sensitive to our senses, just like animals are, because they know, they feel everything much more sensitive and faster?
Exactly, yes. And much more in tune. Actually, the answer to that is both. So you can establish literally any kind of a relationship that you wish to, as to how you would like to utilize the information. So in kind of a reference to also how I did get started in this part, and this might help a little bit to explain. So one of the first things that I started to work on when I had my second awakening was dream analysis. It was literally my first love. So after a while, from analyzing dreams daily, a great deal of information, I started to notice that I could read reality through the dream book. So the dream book was, if I took it and looked at, okay, what is my favorite room in the house? Okay, this room right now, what colors are in it? What decor is in it? That represented significantly right there what my current main focus was. So that's a little bit of purpose identification there. So it's just sitting there, it's purpose identification. And then it was the animals in dreams. So you can use it for purpose identification, similar to my first book that sticks out in my mind was Watership Down. And that's a destiny purpose space that holds a higher frequency. And if I pay attention to more of my purpose, we move into the flow, and that's when we receive a more clear, guidance. In a sense, we're just, things just happen much easier when we identify with true soul purpose. So, for example, the animals know when to, move and get out of town if something's going to happen. They feel it before it's going to happen. So when we become more tuned into our specific nature and soul purpose here with source energy, it just happens in a better flow. So in a sense, guidance is just happening that way. Otherwise, we can ask the animals to protect in a situation with their frequency. Let's say we're feeling fear about something. So we work with a courageous animal. So we bring a wild cat energy to us that has courage. We focus on that energy. And we may see more cats in reality at that time. So it's kind of a very open, how would you like to use it? And the point is that the more that you want to be connected and you work with it in a manner of ritual, so that's what, cultural tribes generally do. They use the skins to honor the archetypal power. behind certain totems and animals, which it's really just the archetypal power. So we then strengthen the archetypal power in us. So it's nurturing, it's strengthening. We can just call on it, or we can simply because. So I've established that I love signs. I've established that I very much enjoy being guided by nature, which mostly everyone is coming into that right now. And so, for instance, recently I literally had life and death decisions that I had to make here with another individual. And in that time frame, because a set of mourning doves came onto my balcony and were trying to nest on my balcony, and it had never happened before, and it was unusual. They were persistent. They kept coming back, and I looked up mourning dove, and it was mother energy, and it was patience. That and 2 rabbits by a car and a deer that crossed my path right after that told me what the best decision would be. It gave me, it was saying to me, these energies are important right now. I still had to ask myself, is that correct? And so you're building an awareness level. That was my higher voice being displayed in those messages back. And the decisions that were made a 100% difference in everything. And I did not know the answers at the time. So it didn't give me the answer. It gave me what energies, if I followed them, would probably be very effective. And those are the energies I chose. And I expressed that around me. I said, I'm making this decision here because of this. And to another person, I said, you could be very thankful for these messages coming in. And it was very important. It was very, very important. So does that help answer?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It does. Wow.
I have another
what
question.
are yours? Yeah, go ahead, Steph.
My question is, okay, so I constantly get messages too, and I know I need to listen, but I am not the best decipherer of messages. So, like, is there anything that I can do to learn other than, like, the animal speak, like how it works? Like if an animal crosses my direction from the left versus the right, or if I have a dream that an animal is dead versus alive. You know what I mean? Like, where can I learn about that?
Oh, yes. Okay. I'm not real sure if I'm going to say it in the correct order of M's in the book, but it is called, there is a dream book called The Magical, Mystical, Marvelous World of Dreams by Wilda B. Tanner. And Wilda has a wonderful way of integrating directions and circumstances into that dream book. So it starts to expand your awareness. Now, I'm not sure if you've ever read the beginning of Animal Speak, but that also starts to expand on directions and numbers. How many animals did you see? Because you can bring in numerology. That has an effect. How many times? Yeah. It's very symbolic. I will tell you. Oh boy, I'm getting personal here, but it wasn't me. But I started. If I'm on the road, and I start to see an abundance of police cars around me every time I go out, someone's heading to get a ticket, and I've learned for myself to slow down and not do it. And sure enough, if another person around wasn't paying attention, and so I've just learned that when things happen in greater numbers, and they have significance. So you can study the numbers. It's not too hard to find 1 through 9. So it's kind of a matter of looking up symbols and just starting out slow. So, and then, it was a lot of hindsight. I most certainly, didn't realize this right away, but and I can't even, what was the first thing I did? I can't remember. There was something with a first animal sign that kind of led me to start on this, but it'll come to me later on. But for instance, the coyotes coming to me, I literally the last time that a trickster was around me was the last time I saw a coyote, and we have a lot of them around here. Now, if I saw one again right now, because there may not be an external trickster around me, I would look at myself and say, okay, you may be trickster, or the coyote can be a positive message. So you kind of have to be discerning. So it's a matter of looking inside and saying, how am I functioning with this space right now of this animal archetype, the energy that this animal is? How am I truly working with it? What's taking place? So it might be the coyote is very adaptable. It's been able to adapt and survive, even though its territory has been infringed on. So there's very positive aspects of it. So it's kind of a matter of choosing you're going to do it, but using a symbol book. You will find that book very interesting. It takes you through, different themes and directions. So I learned directions. I learned about going uphill, going down, going left, going right. Mm-hmm. Generally, kind of for me, going left might be not so good. Going right is a little bit better, etc. So it's hindsight, and I certainly didn't start out doing it all right. And I'm sure if I thought hard, I would remember the times when I misinterpreted something. But it can really only be learned in hindsight.
I'll be honest, a lot of times I'm like, angels, universe, whoever's trying to give me a message, can you just tell me what you want me to know? Too much, dude. Just tell me, I'll do it.
Well, okay, so there's little things that we can look at. Your home is a representation of you. Every room in your home, just like reading in a dream, means something about you. The colors that you've chosen. What if you're looking for an answer? It will come. First of all, it will come no matter what it's there. It's just a matter of seeing what is there, and sometimes it's staring at us. But let's say there's a particular room in the home you're in right now. Let's say you're having a challenge and there's one room in your house that you don't care for, or you really want it rearranged or redecorated or something. I'm so sorry for that. That may be the most prevalent area that is you need to work on, that chakra. So like the kitchen is the heart energy. The bathroom is where we are releasing, so it would be cleansing. Are we able to release from the past and move forward? Bedrooms are where we are laying down to rest, where we're kind of digesting our ideas. It's the bed we lay in. Do you have, if there's something in there? The attic or the upper level of the house would be the higher self a little more. If the basement is an issue and has spaces, say, that scare us or something, that can represent a scary space in our subconscious. And literally you can read it just like a dream. And kind of a cool thing is that now, we all know that to change reality, we need to change our insides to change the external reflection. But in these little personal spaces, sometimes you can comb the hair in the mirror. And meaning, if let's say there is a space in your home, something that you just haven't cleaned up. There's a laundry pile that's been forever there. There's a work pile of papers that's forever there. In a feng shui manner, if you go and just say, I don't care how I feel about it, I'm just going to clean that up, it can have an effect back on you. So that's a tool.
Definitely.
And it can help. It's one of the tools. And, of course, then we want to kind of work on, it not getting there. But this is reality. We're human here. We're working through all these things. That's a tool, and it works. So, definitely when we are emotional, it's a little bit more difficult for us to retrieve the messages. It's more difficult to see them. And so, when the mom that I am, when I would have an emotional situation, I'd say to my kids, "Did you dream anything?" And I'm not kidding you. Sometimes my kids would deliver the dream, or they'd wake up in the morning, they'd say, "Mom, I think I was in your dream," But because there's so much that you can retrieve from the dream, but the reality is your living dream. So it's here. It's here around you. And whatever set of meanings that you work with are the ones you're meant to work with. If we look in a book that's giving us meaning to something, it might be slight variances per superstitions and beliefs, but just decide which ones you want to look at. I stay away from the superstitions. I love owls. I've had people who are fearful because they heard an owl at a time when a family member passed away, and then anytime they hear it after that, they would think of the owl as that. But it doesn't stay like that. I don't think of the owl as portending, giving us that message, that forewarning. I think of it as seeing in the dark and seeing things that, lighting up the other half that we can see inside on that we need to see, that's trying to elude us. So it becomes personal to you generally.
Cindy,
beautiful. Thank you so much.
I will speak of deja vu a little bit after we have a guest, because I want to know what deja vu is from your words, Cindy. But are you ready, Cindy, for a guest? We have a guest with a question.
Okay, sure.
All right, 1 second. Hello, you are on air. Do you have a question for Cindy?
Yes, I wanted to see if she does readings or can pick up on the energies of who I am. I'm actually a global visionary. I love what she's talking about related to nature, which I say is God's classroom. If you just get out in it and put down the devices, it will heighten your awareness and lower your stress level. And if I may, I'll share a couple of quick little stories that I think people might enjoy. I walk around a senior independent apartment building for exercise. I multitask. I pray for the world when I walk, and when I finish, I sit down on a bench and just resonate with the beauty around me, the flowers, the trees, listening to the birds singing so happily because they have all their needs met. And a couple of years ago, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a monarch butterfly came and landed 3 feet in front of me. It was orange and black with white markings, and it stayed for about 20 minutes, periodically opening and closing its wings. And then I was trying to figure out who's going to leave first, me or the butterfly, and the butterfly moved another 3 feet and landed on top of a dandelion and left its wings open. Then I started getting like a telepathic message. When life is tough, we tend to go into a shell or close our wings like the butterfly, but also like the butterfly, if we just open our wings and let go and let God, how beautiful life can be. And then another time I was standing barefoot amongst a patch of beautiful buttercups, admiring them surrounding me, and then I just happened to look down and noticed a tiny little maroon flower had 3 leaves, and I started thinking, wow, it's really not taking away from the beauty of all the buttercups. It's actually enhancing it. When I came to that realization, I noticed my T-shirt was the same maroon color as that flower.
Very beautiful.
Thank you.
Very beautiful. And do you have a specific question that you wanted to ask as far as?
Well, what I'd love to do is speak with you sometime, because I really have so much to give, and it's time now to really tamp down the chaos and look to become more spiritual and caring and sharing with each other. So I wanted to see if you were picking up in that regard in the same way.
And of course, talking about a monarch butterfly and how they, return to the, same trees in their flight. So it's sort of a message about returning home again. And butterfly.
I forgot to mention, I noticed my Bermuda shorts had the same colors as the monarch butterfly. That was a piece I forgot to put in there.
Okay. And so a butterfly is about transmutation and the different forms that we're taking. So, and in the second story, what sticks out is that you said the emphasis on the word different. So different is meaningful to you. You feel different amongst the space that you're in, and there's a sense of, as you're saying, you have a feeling of adding beauty to the place. And of course, the fact that you referenced that the butterfly closes itself off when it feels maybe threatened. So that, in a sense, is a story of, as information that you're providing right now, because you chose to tell those 2 stories, that they have a place with you in your purpose about feeling different, seeking your unfolding of your wings, and yet there is a space that you have or are still slightly working with in feeling safe and not threatened. So there's a lot of, you are in more independent space right now. So there's a seeking of connectedness. And did you need me to go on anymore?
No, I think that was very perceptive, because I do have so much to give, and it's time now for people to really look at themselves in new ways, and a more spiritual way with personal responsibility, and to understand more about the law of attraction. What you put out is what you get back. It's unlimited, so why not just put out love and get that back?
Exactly. And the world is definitely filled with a lot of people, all present company here, where and listeners that are becoming more attentive, and certainly in a space where we need to resolve these issues from the past that we came here to do. This is a time frame in the world, and I think it's good if everyone remembers this, that we came here right now knowing that this would be a time frame of transition, in a sense, where we're closing off the old and going into something different. And in doing that, it's a review. We do not want to bring traits with that aren't going to serve a new space. We have a rare opportunity where all the veils open up and everything that's hidden in the recesses gets to come forward. The good, the bad, and the very, very ugly is all coming forward for us to take responsibility for, even if it's in tacit consent as a collective whole. So in this space, it's a time frame of healing, and everyone. I see a lot of people going in. So your story, here within the reflections is about you knowing that you have something to give, and so it's time to take flight and initiative on it.
I'm very perceptive. I thank you so much for that.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please connect to us again.
Hey, God bless.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right.
Let's get back to
Cindy,
that deja vu question that you had.
My deja vu question, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, your deja vu question. Okay.
Yes.
Well,
so I am sitting. It's actually quite interesting. I have multiple deja vus that just took place, which makes it even more interesting. But I just had a deja vu running this radio as you were Cindy speaking before the gentleman called in, and everything you've said, everything I observed through my eyes, were like I am repeating it.
Aww.
And
yay.
And in fact, even the area where I'm sitting right now is giving me a very distinguished deja vu as well. Not just the situation, but also the location. Yes.
Okay, and I got the ring of truth on it. So if something that someone expresses to me is very deeply true, then I get what's called the ring of truth, and I start vibrating, and especially my lower legs, and I got the big buzz on. So that's very true. You did. I know I recently had read something or listened to someone talking about deja vu being and I don't feel this way about it, but I think it can be in a sense. There can be some issues with the simulation that's going on here, the false light matrix, and having glitches and things like that. But when you are tuning in and getting closer to people that you have been with before, then I believe that's when you get the deja vu, because my personal theory is that, and especially what I see in numerology, we are continuing a storyline that was begun, at whatever time, whatever. It's a never-ending story. It is something that we are working on and continuing, and at this point of time, every one of us is spread out through different dimensions, and in this time frame, those dimensions are merging. So everything's getting closer, and if we are clearing well and going close to source and center, our groups that are mostly associated with us that we've been with before are getting closer to us. That's why people are saying they feel their tribe around them more. They feel original spaces that resonate more with them traversing sort of back out. We kind of go into deeper fractals, deeper mirrors. So we are pulling ourselves out of those dream within dream within dream, and back to more original spaces. And we start to meet and coalesce with people that more resonate with us, that we've been around before. So that, yes, we've done this before. I feel we're always, in another place in time, this was happening, and I'm, in my impression, what I received so far, it does relate to a time frame when I spoke out, but in one section of that, in lower world, it didn't go so well. Okay? This space here is correcting that. It is correcting it and moving forward, because that's what we're correcting in the collective. We do have the freedom within us to choose to not participate and give our creative power away to energies that don't have their own creative power, so they create through us. All it is us taking out their creations and doing ours. So yes, you are correct. You felt we were together before, and it is repeated. I will tell you that when I did the first show, and the split second that I started to talk was the most surreal feeling. It was so unusual. I went, wow. And I can feel it right now again. It's palpable. So we are, as we get closer, there's a more coherent feeling. So I'm feeling the coherency. You felt more coherency, connectedness, a higher vibration. Definitely.
Beautiful.
That's my impression of it.
Yes, it was very clear to me. Like, you know how deja vus are. It's just you, like, yes, like I.
Yes.
There is no confirmation. It's like, yeah, it feels weirdly familiar.
Okay, and that feeling you're talking about is the same feeling that you will get when you're getting a very powerful animal message. In a sense, it will make you stop, and look at it. And we, like, sometimes our wishes to have a sign might confuse us a little bit, and we sometimes try to force a message a little bit. But so sometimes that's how different messages. I have heard people express things where I'm kind of aware that it wasn't exactly maybe what they thought. And it can go in either direction. Sometimes someone's wrongly hard on themselves, and where they're supposed to be positive about it, and vice versa. And sometimes someone's imagining something to be more when it's just a natural event. But you can't help that. That's part of refining ourselves. You see, the animals generally aren't questioning those things like we are, because they're a little bit more in tune. And that's not to say that they're not, because of stuff that we've introduced, their animals don't, know that they shouldn't be swallowing plastic and things like that. But, that's part of what we've introduced. So that's still a learning space for them that they have to put in their collective consciousness, but they stay so in tune. We've fallen so much out of resonance with the guidance. And here's the thing. It's always there. If we are in these cycles, okay, it's cycles within cycles, and if we can get ourselves more in tune, it is a safer, easier process. We would feel a warning coming. I was walking with my son once when we were younger. All of a sudden, out of the blue, he goes, "Mom, my lower legs just got really weak. Something's wrong, And so we paid a little bit of attention. We got to a corner. We made a right turn. And then behind us, my son heard something jingle. And he turns around and he goes, there's two kind of, suspicious kind of kids behind us. They seem like they looked a little, off. And I didn't have a purse with me, so I just kind of put my energy up a little bit stronger, sent that message out, but didn't want to turn around because I didn't want to act, show fear. Well, we walked into a store which was ahead, and by the time we came out, the police were there, and those two kids had tried to rob someone with a knife, and they'd called the people that they did end up running into, called the police. So if we learn to just, in intent that we're going to pay attention to those things, they will start to happen. And then it's a matter, like I said, of hindsight. So they're happening all the time. Forewarnings are always happening. And I'm not going to say that we can prevent everything, because my true belief is I feel there are certain spaces that happened in my life when the veil was meant to stay down so that I would make some decisions that I needed to, even though they were going to cause distress later on. And I don't need to go into explaining, what I mean in full by that. But what I mean is that there are experiences that we may not have wanted, wouldn't have just walked into had we already known what they were. Do you see what I mean? So messages are
125,000%.
Okay, so you could see, that that's what I was kind of like meaning earlier when I was, talking about how that's not going to give us the answers. It's going to give us guidance for what the energies are that we're working with, but it won't give us answers. We have to make the decisions on it. The birds didn't make the decision when I saw the mourning doves. I made the decision. But it came very clear, and I was asking, what do I do, in my mind? I mean, this is challenging, but luckily I had, and I'll tell you, a lot of it is, do you feel that nature will do that for you? Do you feel deserved enough for that communication? And you have to have enough self-love to allow that. So allow that self-love, allow those messages. But it's just a refining. I just happen to love doing that, I'm the CSI investigator, I always think like I'm catching my own bad guys on the inside all the time, Okay, I heard that. Now get out of here, I mean, they're my inner voice. I'm like, get out of here, So, and truthfully, I'll tell you that if someone, says to me, what color was that person wearing, or what did their face look like, or what was their hair like, I'm like, I don't know. I was reading the energy and everything else around the whole space, So we have our
You sound like
areas.
me.
Oh my gosh, I'm totally in the energy field, and sometimes specifics are like, and I notice things obviously, but like I'm an energy field person. That's what's mostly first coming in, and so much is happening. So we have a lot that's going to get turned on and activated to continue to use. So, and it will happen. It's just a matter of allowing it.
Cindy,
and obviously, yep.
Mm-hmm. Please go
on.
ahead, and I'll ask you a question. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, obviously, I kind of lost my train of thought there, but it was like that, where it's a matter of, I know you two are already super connected with nature. So, the messages are there, but, remember that our lives are super busy, like extremely busy. I've devoted myself to spaces where family needed me, where, that was taking up 70% of my time. And, I mean, I had to pull back from stuff for that. Well, so there's a lot of spaces that our time goes to, meaning we shouldn't put pressure on ourselves. Let it just, flow how it's going to come in and learn,
So my question, Cindy, for you is, what would you suggest as a practitioner and self-practitioner more than anything, right? Is for people to utilize for a better alignment, not just with nature, but the science and how to interpret easier. You can elaborate on that, like what people can do on a daily basis to create more of an alignment and the flow with life.
So you could sit down and start on a piece of paper, start answering some questions about let's start with your home. What current colors are in your home? What is your favorite room? What is your least favorite room? What kinds of pictures are on the wall? What kind of an area do you live in? What kind of animals are around there? What's your favorite all-time movie? What's your favorite book? You could write down your telephone number there. And then after that, starting with those things, get yourself a dream book, something similar to what I just mentioned, Willoughby Tanner's book, and begin to decode that information for one. You're going to find in those books, in that book, it has color representations, it has background representations, what kind of a building you're in, what that can mean. It has numbers in there. You can look up a numerology online. You can look up what kinds of plants you have in your home. And the thing is, once you kind of look at those things, just let them sit there. Just start writing some of those things down about them. I have a huge corn yucca plant in my front room that I've just really nurtured, and she's really big. And she is protection and luck. And the two other plants that I also happen to have happen to be protection, but they're also like air filtering too. So that was at that time I just picked them because one made it to me, another one made it to me. I didn't ask for it; they just came here, and then the corn yucca one was the only one I chose. But they ended up being on the same themes. So if you start to look at those things, it tells you a little bit about the time frame you're going through. So you basically just need to learn what the representations are, the meanings of them. And simply by your desire to do that, you can take your telephone number and write down what the first three numbers add up to, what the second three, you don't do your area code because everyone has that. And then those two sections are important about you right now, and then add them both together and then look that up in numerology, what that means. And you can look that up online. You can go to decodes.com and look up what your telephone number means, even your house number. And that's a reflection of you. That's a reflection. I remember I moved into where I'm at right now, and there was a 7 in here, and 7 meant I was going to be alone, and I wasn't happy with that. I remember going, no. And then I thought, well, maybe it'll be good, or I'll write or something, and it totally was another initiation of, a very studious space, and coming back in and hard and starting to write and do more studying again in general. So it wasn't bad after all. So everything's there. It's just a matter of learning what the meanings are. And that's something that you just study. But start to write it down and play with it. So everything means something. I didn't know I had a Kuan Yin archetype. I didn't know who Kuan Yin was, and somebody gifted me with this beautiful plaque that she handmade, and it's Kuan Yin. She said, oh, yeah, you're a Kuan Yin archetype. I'm like, oh, and I looked it up, and I just cried. It was so sweet. So that's, and then when I read that, it made sense to me. This sounds right now that these little things couldn't mean deeper meaning. But Kuan Yin means she stays behind. She knows that she can go to a higher plane. But she hears the cries of the children and she goes back. And I had this dream that I was on the Titanic and I went back in to save people. And I'm scanning people looking for certain children. So it's my belief I came back in to have certain children again and to work with them. And the Kuan Yin archetype, sometimes there's pressure for me that I'm supposed to move out of some places and have, in a sense, more work in a more area where there'd be more people exactly like me. But being a Kuan Yin archetype, my heart resonates with seeding the people that it makes me emotional. Oh, I always get emotional. Because I'm seeding people who really need that seed, even if they're not going to make it. So that helps me understand myself better. Her little gift to me helped me understand how I have to be me. And that's how something can help us, is a reflection. We study what it means then, and we sit back and it falls into place. Let it fall into place.
Yes.
Wow.
Allowing.
Well, I do want to bring up that we did the numerology for Feminine Frequency Radio Network.
A lot.
No.
But we have about, hello? We have about 8 minutes left of the radio, and I would like to ask you, Cindy, what is your contact information for people to reach out for sessions, for questions, comments?
Okay, so I have a website, and that is thectechnique.com, and C is SEE, or I can be contacted at my email address, thectechnique@gmail.com, or I can be reached on my Cindy Magnuson Facebook page. I have another Facebook page, and it is at the C Technique. It comes up under Source Energy Epiphanies, but you can find it under at the C Technique. So either way there, anyway.
Beautiful, and I will list your information on our Facebook page as well at Organic Frequency Radio. So that information is also listed for anyone who would like to take a look at it again. And any last words of wisdom from Cindy today? What can you leave us with until next time?
I would say that something that comes to mind is sometimes when, let's just say, we're having an emotional time and a hard time, and we tend to hear other people having maybe, big events or big stories. They're seeing big signs and things like that. And we may feel, like we're out of touch with something like that. And the truth is we are never out of touch. And I could summarize, I get a chance to summarize all the big events here. And back behind the scenes, I'm a human person that's walked through, really challenging places that have been great gifts of giving me inner wisdom in order to sit and help others. So don't be hard on ourselves. And when we are having a challenging time with, meaning anything you want to take on, give it time to slowly develop. If your heart's into it, nature will respond. That's all you need, is your heart to be into it, and give yourself time. So I, started a while ago, so I've built up this. It doesn't mean that there's perfection here because I'm able to do it. It means that I've been able to read it to guide me through the challenging courses of events that I had already chosen I would come here to resolve specifically. So to just kind of like everyone to love themselves enough to just allow it to flow and know that nature isn't selective to anyone in particular. Nature is going to speak to everyone who wishes to forge a connection. And you do that by honoring nature and the connections there. My motto is, be good to Mother Nature and she will be good to you.
That is a beautiful.
I love that.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Well, Cindy, thank you so much. Thank you for your words of wisdom. I resonate quite deeply with that. And thank you for coming and joining us today and sharing your heart and mind and knowledge and practice and gifts. Stephanie and I were both excited to have you on board on Feminine Frequency Radio Network, and we're just excited to have it on, and I think it's going to be giving a lot of good shares and connections and depth and evolvement. So I'm excited.
Me too. Ditto, ladies. Absolutely.
Yes, Cindy, thank you so much.
Okay. You are welcome.
Thank
and
you,
I look
Cindy,
forward to listening to your show on Thursday.
Okay. Yes, it's going to be exciting.
Yes. In fact, we probably will run your ad at the end of the show today, just to give a little bit more information. So, all right, Cindy, well, have a beautiful night, and thank you so much for connecting to us today and providing all the information, and we will see you and chat with you soon.
Okay. Thank you, ladies. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye. All right. Well, this is almost the end of our show. Yet amazing guest. I am very excited. Stephanie, I am going to give my information very quickly to our listeners. Please connect to me on Facebook at Be Ancient Wisdom. My email address is also beancientwisdom.com. You can check out my classes on Vimeo On Demand. It's Vimeo On Demand. Trying to remember the full address, and I don't remember right now. I think it's Vimeo.com/Oxana Ganchar /VOD_pages. Stephanie, go ahead with your information, and we're going to wrap it up.
Yeah, if you need to reach me, you can reach me via email at edensbalance@gmail.com, or you can check out my Facebook page, Eden's Balance, and Eden's Balance on Instagram as well. But make sure you check out the Feminine Frequency Radio Network page on Facebook, like, share, check out all of the other awesome shows that we're going to have on during the week. We would love for you to join us. Be part of the Feminine Frequency fam.
Please, yes. And Organic Frequency Radio Facebook page is also at Organic Frequency Radio. The same with Instagram. If you like Instagram, we're there as well. And I think that's it. It's been an amazing show. I love nature.
Yeah, sorry about Kai in the background.
He's part of nature.
It's live. That's what you get.
All right. Well, everyone have a beautiful night. Stephanie, have a great night on your side. And that is it for now. I will run Cindy's ad today, and we are done until next Monday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time.
Beautiful. Have a good week, everyone.
Bye. See you and chat to you next Monday.
You are now entering the corridors of Twilight Epiphanies Talk Radio with your host, Cindy Magnuson, premiering Thursday evenings, 7 to 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on Feminine Frequency Radio Network. You are invited on a talk radio journey to the center of self. Join us as Cindy guides you, the listeners, in sensory and perception upgrades where revelations and golden epiphanies pierce the veils of illusion. Don't miss this opportunity for your next dose of Twilight Epiphanies.